My name is Blake Jessup. I am the school counselor at Wingo Elementary. We are in far western Kentucky, right 10 minutes away from the border of Tennessee. And my presentation is all about building sustainable school-wide PD and coaching systems for our Tier 1 structures. So it's not on this slide, and I have to say this is very odd for me. I've never done a virtual or presented a virtual PD. I'm used to presenting them in person, so hopefully it's not as awkward as I envision in my mind. Um, but just a little bit about me. This is my 12th year here at Wingo Elementary. I spent 8 in the classroom, and this is my 4th year as the school counselor. And part of the way our district uses the school counselors is to be the PBIS coach for the school. So um, I think in one of the next slides, we'll talk a little bit about the history of our implementation, but a little bit about our school. So we are a very rural community, got lots of farmland around us. Uh, my house is right down the road. There's an Amish plantation around the corner from me. So very rural. We are one of 6 elementary schools, and then we have a middle school and a high school. So our school, I think we are the second largest elementary school in our district, but we are preschool through 6th grade. And right now, with preschool included, we're sitting right around 400 students. Our school is very heavy on the economically disadvantaged. I think our percentage on the last school report card was like 78%. So everyone does get free and reduced lunch. And then as far as our students with disabilities who have an IEP, around 34%. I think that percentage does include our kiddos who may just have an IEP for speech, but holistically, we do have a large population of students with disabilities. We are very transient. Um, I have a spreadsheet that I use that tracks incoming students and outgoing students, and since September, from like September to March, we've had 80 kids move out and I've had 79 kids move in. So some of those are repeats where they leave and they come back. And then our regional person told me that she thought I should include the that Graves County. So our district, we do have a pretty high crime rate, which is higher than both the state and the national averages. So just to kind of give a little bit of background on why PBIS was or has been so beneficial and impactful for our school. We just have very high needs, especially compared to some of our friends around us. Okay, so history of implementation. Um, since I started teaching here, there have been elements of PBIS, but just in the last 4 years, so it just happened to align with when I took over as school counselor. We really started hitting the ground running with getting everything interconnected. So we're in I guess next school year we'll be going into our 5th year of that. Um, each year we've focused on just one tier at a time. So we tried to bite off a little bit at a time. We didn't want to tackle everything at once. Um, and then just I put this in here because our school it is, we always tell our staff when we get new people at the beginning of the year that this Wingo is not for everyone. It is a hard place to work. And we tell them you're going to know real quick if it is somewhere that you're called to work, and it's okay if you're not. So it is a difficult place to work, but it is very rewarding. So last year, we've done a lot of work through our West Kentucky Educational Co-op. And last summer, we were recognized as a model demonstration school for our PBIS implementation. So it felt like it was neat getting to come back and celebrate that with our staff because they do put in a lot of work to make it successful. And so now that we've strengthened one tier at a time, each year we've improved. Now we're able to focus on embedding some more of those components like social emotional learning and really getting into the nitty gritty of some of our interventions and improving that system. Okay, so that was a little bit of our background. The TFI that I'm specifically talking about, I'm not going to sit there and read that, but it is the 1.12, and it's all about school-wide professional development and coaching. The way that our district, let me see if it's on this one. So the way our district has things set up is in the summer, 2, 3 days before school begins, we have a professional development day where I'm leading the PBIS portion. We have a whole day devoted to it, and I have a team with me. And we'll get into the specifics of the PD itself, but that's where we do our PBIS, everything you need to know PBIS. So some of our data sources for that, we have our PD calendar where it's already embedded. Everybody's going to what PDs. Our self-assessment survey, that guides a lot of what we spend more time on. So I take the self-assessment survey very seriously. I believe that if the staff if they want change, then give me feedback. I just had a PLC on Friday before we let out for spring break, and it was about another tier one intervention that we had implemented. And I said, I want feedback because if sometimes we get back on certain surveys that they don't have much say in whatever it is, but then when we don't get feedback, we're not able to make some of those changes. So I love the self-assessment survey to help guide what we spend more time on. We have a staff landing page, so hopefully this won't mess everything up, but very overwhelming if you are looking at it for the first time. But where the tier triangle is under PBIS, we've got all kinds of PBIS links. Staff have access to that at all times. And then we have our PLC calendar where it's built into each week. Okay, so when we started doing our professional developments the way we are doing them now, where everybody comes together at the table and we're using a team to present the content, the material, some of the value, we just had more consistency across our classrooms. I felt like before we really started diving into PBIS and its components, everybody was kind of doing their own thing. Some people were more effective than others, but when we built that consistency across classrooms, staff became more confident. I feel like we shifted from reactive to proactive. I would be wrong if I said that there aren't still times where people react, but for the most part, we are very proactive now. Um, Everyone's using the same language, which helps embed that into students. And then our behavior incidents, we have less behavior, so we get more instructional time. So everything is very intentional the way that it is planned out. When we're thinking about designing the system, uh, when I first took this position, and we met at the board office like 3 or 4 times in a year to plan out what our PD for the next year was going to look like. And when we first started doing that, I honestly thought it was silly until we got to the day of presenting, and then I realized that the majority of the work had already been done. So we spend all year planning that. We have multiple people at the table, have different teachers, special education teachers, family resource coordinator, principal. We just have a lot of stakeholders, and I think that helps build more buy-in. We use our monthly PBIS meetings. I try to tailor our PBIS meetings to actionable items, things that are actually going to make a difference in real time. We try to give ongoing feedback. Um, I'm all about what do the people want. So when they have questions or they're needing guidance or struggling with something, I want them to learn from their peers. Sometimes I remember as a teacher, I always felt like the right answers or the best answers had to come from admin, and we forget that those in the classroom have a lot to offer. So again, use a lot of data to differentiate things. Use survey results from teachers to guide what we discuss. Some of the impact, we've kind of already talked about it. We increase consistency. Um, the staff became more confident. I remember in the beginning they asked a lot of questions, and they still ask questions, but now I feel like they're more intentional questions. I think they have more ownership in what they are doing in their classroom now. More buy-in, again, with our kids being so transient, and a lot of them do move within district. And I love that as of the last few years, when our kids leave us and end up at one of our other in district schools, they're following the same. We do SOAR, safety, ownership, achievement, respect. They do the same thing there. So that stays consistent across the board. Um, and then talking about our system, we went from a one-time PD to it's become ongoing. We do it throughout the year. We use our meetings, our monthly meetings, our PLC time, to just make sure everybody's on the same page and refine anything that needs a little tuning up at that time. Self-assessment. So we did score a 4.0 on that TFI. Again, I'm not going to read through all those things because that's what we just talked about. But a couple of the things that I didn't mention, our principal sends out a Monday message every week, and there are PBIS reminders in there. I think some of the most important things for us, or for me as the one who leads the efforts, would be making sure you have multiple stakeholders at the table. I find that staff respond better when their peers are part of the presentation. So it's not just somebody from the office regurgitating information. It's their peers in real time, kind of saying, okay, these things are going to work. I've tried them in my classroom. Future action steps. So while we have made so much progress from where we started, some of the things that we still want to improve on, differentiating for staff, strengthening consistency across coaching practices and feedback systems, uh, creating or enhancing more data cycles to quickly inform PD, develop a more structured onboarding system for new staff, and continue aligning PBIS with academic and social emotional initiatives. So that last one is probably the one I'm most excited about, because now that our tier 1 and tier 2 and tier 3 are in much better shape now, we get to focus and be more intentional about some of the initiatives that we've kind of had on the back burner because we were trying to get the foundation set first. And I believe Jennifer and I mentioned that we will, when it gets to the Q&A here in a minute or two, we'll go through the chat and answer some of those questions. Okay, so moving forward, our suggestions for schools who are getting started. So start with a clear written PD plan for tier 1. You've got to figure out what your foundation already has and build around that. Identify your core PBIS practices for staff focus. So celebrate strengths that you already have, and then identify the components that you want to improve from the beginning. Use existing structures. So that's been beneficial, using time for like that. We already had PLC time. Well, I talked to my principal and I asked, can I use a PLC day every now and then to do a monthly meeting, because I get more people at the table that way. Ensure all staff are included. So that is huge for me. We have cafeteria, custodians, bus drivers, certified and classified staff. And to me, that's been the biggest bang for our buck, because we really tried to preach the last few years that everybody's a teacher, whether you're a bus driver or you're a cafeteria monitor or a cafeteria worker. Everybody's a teacher of something, and you all have the same power. So that's been big for us. And then focus on consistency over complexity. So I think main points there, everybody on the same page, using multiple stakeholders. And then when we're looking at improving, continue using data to differentiate, build coaching into daily systems, not as an add-on, increase staff voice and ownership, align PBIS with academic and SEL initiatives, and then continue to refine. I'm very transparent with our staff. And when I identify something that I feel like I need improvement in, I share that with them, and I welcome their ideas. I would much rather them lead a discussion by me throwing data up on a board than me coming into the meeting saying, this is what the data says, and this is what you should do about it. I want them to be able to help us move forward.